Well, hello there. So by now I've put up some interviews I did while I was on vacation in New Orleans with Andrew Soto of Sugarfield Distillery in Gonzales, and also Andrew Lofield of Roulaison Distillery actually New Orleans itself, kind of in the northwest section. And I thought as a follow-up to those interviews, I would just run through the bottles I bought while I was down there. The tricky thing is I've technically, in a sense, reviewed all of these. I can re-review the Roulaison pretty easily. This is their Overproof. Because the one I reviewed way back when, I'm going to link that up in my 9 Rums for Louisiana little video, was, I believe, the batch 1. And this, which I have actually bought, is batch 3. By the way, before we go any further, Andrew, Roulaison Andrew, like second Andrew, can we talk about the cork on this for 1 second? Because, okay, so I understand what they tried to do. The cork comes in 2 pieces, right? There's the nice little woodeny bit, and then there's the sort of synthetic corky bit. The problem is, basically the first day I had this home, the two separated, and they ain't coming back together. So I love what you're doing down there, Andrew, but get better corks, man. All right, let's try to get that back on, and hopefully he'll be able to get it off again. The trouble is the Sugarfields, because these are exactly what I reviewed in that video, and having kind of resampled them, I'm going to stick to my numbers then. I gave the experimental number 5 from Ascension Parish a 85 points. And I gave an 87 to the Assumption Parish. This was actually my favorite American spirit of last year period, I believe. The number 6 here. But what I have not reviewed yet is what we did in that interview, which was to combine the two into one. So what I've got here in my shot glass is the combination of basically half and half experimentals 5 and 6. So we have experimental 5.5 here. This is Ascension Parish from Sugarfield. Same stats as before. Hand crushed at distillery. They actually have like their own milling machine. Fermented with Lallemand RM yeast and double distilled in their little pot still. So these are the things I'm going to review. By the way, so New Orleans is fantastic. If you've never been there, I would, for God's sake, you're not going to listen to me, but I would say, for God's sake, avoid the French Quarter. Just don't go in the French Quarter. It's a sea of like old white people tourists, and everything's overpriced. Just don't. Just don't. Like, go out to somewhere like Gonzales, get some jambalaya. Go on the swamp tour. It's fantastic. Go on a wildlife safari. My daughter loved it. She got to feed like this big cow thing. It was great. But yeah, the French Quarter was the worst part of the trip, honestly. Anyways, go to New Orleans. That's my and visit the distilleries while you're down there, but maybe not so much in the stuff that's in the French Quarter. I mean, you're gonna have to get the beignets somewhere. You don't need to get them there, and that's all I'm gonna say. All right, let's go through these. First of all, the Sugarfield batch 5.5 Assumption, which I've just blended up, and which you yourself can blend up if you buy these 2 bottles, assuming you're gonna make a trip down there or you're gonna get distribution. Oh, that's a good nose. Oh, so the first thing I should say is, so Sugarfield has a huge operation. They have a pretty serious, like big hybrid still, like a big pot still running into some columns, which most of their stuff comes out of. But these did not come out of that. They have like this tiny little, I don't know exactly how big it is. It's not maybe 20, 30 gallons pot still, which they make their gin on and which they make their experimental rums on. That's where this stuff comes from. So it's a schizophrenic operation in the best possible way. They're making like this sort of big, large production. Well, not large, like medium-ish production lineup of very mixable stuff, and then they're making like this small batch, like pot distilled, cool terroir driven stuff. I'm not gonna do so. The story behind this, which you already heard in the video, was they were harvesting rum in someone's field. They noticed there was a difference in soil types, and they decided to distill those soil types differently. And that's these two bottlings. And now I have destroyed that focus on terroir by blending these two together. All right, let's see what we got. Still 46% alcohol, and what I'm getting is really nice. So I'm getting like wildflowers and a lot of pickle juice, actually, which I like. There's some ketchup, like really, but like nice ketchup, like artisanal ketchup, very, very focused on the tomatoey notes, like wild tomato ketchup, if that makes sense. Mixed olives, brine. There's anise and fennel, like both anise and fennel. Usually it's if I get some earthiness, I can just say it's fennel. But in this case, it's leaning enough towards the clean side of things that I want to say, yeah, it's kind of both. You're mixing both here. And just some minerality. There's some crushed rocks in here, like crushed soapstone or something. Some lovely white pepper notes, and like this, it's hard to nail down. There's like a burned herb thing. Like if you just took some wild, like you were planting some wild herbs, like my wife is doing just now on her back porch. She's kind of caught the bug, and you took them out. You very carefully, picked them, and then you set them all on fire. That's kind of what I'm smelling right now. But in spite of the pickles and the ketchup, these things which tend to come across in wilder versions of cane juice-based rums, Clarins, stuff like that, it also comes across as quite clean, this 5.5 here. On the palate, so what you would... Ooh. Nice. What you'd expect from the blend of an 85-point rum with an 87-point rum is an 86-point rum, right? Because math. But this is actually feels a little bit more than the sum of its parts. You've got a very, very grippy finish, which is coming, I think, from the 5. The 5 is very grippy on the finish. But then there's all these like little corners and details happening, and I think a lot of that is coming from the 6. Really good. There's a lot of just like pure cane juice in here. One of the things I got to do while I was in Louisiana was just like go to a restaurant, Vietnamese fusion place, a lot of really good Vietnamese places in New Orleans, and order a glass of cane juice, which I haven't done in a while. I haven't just had pure cane juice, and it kind of restored that tasting note for me. And it's like a lot of this. Like I would say like 50% of the flavor profile is just that kind of sweety, creamy, almost, grassy, but not quite, kind of generally green character of cane juice. But then beyond that, you're getting some wildflowers, brine again, not ketchup this time. It's more like sun-dried tomatoes. Some olive, some black olive, and then the rocky thing again. That's that kind of crushed rock. And the finish is what's kind of most convincing about this. And a lot of that again feels like it's coming from the 5 with just accents added from the 6. It's very long. It goes very, very deep in my mouth. My mouth is entirely covered, and it's like these kind of floral cane stuff. hanging over like, basically a lot of white pepper and a lot of rocks. It's very, very good. I'm going to give this a squirt of water and come back to it while we deal with the Roulaison. I did not make that much of this, which I'm kicking myself for. I only made like half an ounce, but it's very good. Okay, moving on to the Roulaison Overproof from New Orleans. Now it is just overproof. This is 57.5% alcohol, and this is batch 3, which was presumably made like this year or last year, recently. And I don't know what else to say about it. Very long fermentation. I think, and the Roulaison Andrew said like 20 to 25 days, which is in New Orleans heat is a long time. Oh, it's a big, it's a nose like a big lazy dog. It's just huge and it runs up to you, and it's not, this is not the most, nuanced and deep nose in the world, but it's so huge and kind of friendly and inviting that I almost don't care. Yeah, it's big and rich and savory. It's like nosing like a tres leches cake, but one that you've like soaked in brine and olives. So it's very, big and sweet and desserty, but at the same time very savory. There's a lot of earthy elements in this. There's a kind of like a red clay thing going on. And like some pear stuff happening. Like pear, but also like almost a pear smoke element if you were to smoke pears. Actually, no, scratch all that. And I'm going to amend my notes. Quince is really what I'm getting here. So quince is this other fruit entirely. It's related, but not that closely. Yeah, and it's really like boiled quince, and then if you could like get like a smoky quince kind of note. And then on top of that, there's a lot of like 7-Up and Squirt happening here. So citrus sodas. This is not like pure citrus where you've like zested it or you're juicing it or whatever. This is the soda. And again, lots of kind of ground pepper elements going on here. Big, fun, kind of obnoxious in the best way nose. And on the palate, how did this get arranged like this? I'm a mess today. Okay, so on the palate, surprisingly peppery. There is some pepper on the nose, but it's very much a kind of secondary element. On the palate, it's kind of leading the way. This is a little bit of a pepper bomb. But beyond that, it's kind of following the nose beyond that. Yeah, so we're on kind of tres leches cake, brine, olives, red clay. There's a little bit more floral stuff coming through now, like dried flowers, bubble gum. Let me try one more time. Yeah, like quince bubblegum, if that makes any sense. And then you got your 7-Up and your Squirt notes. It's really nice. I'm going to give this a couple of squirts of water, and we'll come back to it. All right, returning to the Sugarfield 5.5 Assumption Parish. On the nose, not a whole lot of development on the nose. It's still very kind of, pickly ketchupy in the best possible way. Maybe a little bit more floral than before, but not a whole lot of change. And that's okay. Sometimes it doesn't need to turn like magically different every time you add water. Sometimes it can just be the same damn thing with a little water in it. All right, on the palate, oh, that's good. Again, not a huge amount of development. Not really almost any. But it's so good, I don't really care. This is delightful. Can I get it? I don't think it's as good as the 7 on its own. There's a sprawling glory to the 7, which I absolutely love. And this is not quite there, but it's close. So I'm going to give this an 86 plus out of 100. And just to kind of give the Roulaison a little bit more time, maybe I can lip flap a little bit. Yeah, it needs Roulaison needs a little bit more water too. So Andrew Sotal, Sugarfield Andrew. I know it's a little bit confusing that there were 2 Andrews, but that's just how it worked out. The question that he asked at the end of the video, asked us, was basically kind of where do you take Sugarfield in the future? And I think my answer, so what I was pushing maybe harder than I should have been in that video was the emphasis on like local stuff, like the fact that they're using local cane here, but even, and not just in their experimental stuff, like their normal releases are, they're sourcing from kind of down the street, down the road. There's tons of cool stuff going on in Gonzales. Also a lovely playground called Jambalaya Park, which my daughter kind of fell in love with. We had to drag her away from there. And that's great. But it's not like all they're doing. Like they're also sourcing bourbon from, there's a distillery in Virginia, and it's not Bowman. Don't say it's Bowman. It's a different one. And doing their own finishes on it. They're sourcing from a lot of places and doing their own. And I don't want them to stop doing that and kind of focus on just like we're only doing local stuff. There's a value in having people who know something about wine and are wine nerds, doing your finishing. It's why they start thinking about stuff like white ports, when white port isn't really a thing, for the most part in the finishing world yet. I don't even know if that's really out yet, but one of the things that Andrew showed me in the back was some white port casks, which were maturing sourced bourbon, which is extremely cool. And I don't want them to stop doing that. So I think, free, brand consultancy going on, like, keep doing everything you're doing, just like, do it, do also what you're doing with your brands, which is disambiguate them. Like, this is clearly, marked as experimental. It's a different thing than the core brands you're making. So in the future, once, you kind of settle down a little bit and have not just started up 2 years ago, you can do, like a mainline, Sugarfield mainline, to talk about like wine people. Like the stuff that people are going to buy to, throw into drinks and stuff. And, maybe very refined rum is not necessarily my favorite thing in the world, but people are going to be making like mojitos until the end of time. So yeah, you may as well make like a good quality version of what's going to be going into that to fuel that sort of thing, right? But you've also got like a cool pot still on the side to make stuff. So have like a special segment of the brand just for that. Maybe change the label up a little bit, like Sugarfield pot still or something. Like have a little picture, like a little diagram of the pot still on the side, to make it clear, like this is a little bit different from what's coming off our hybrid. And then for source stuff, I mean, disambiguate the brand again, have like Sugarfield Barrel Lab or something. Like this is, we're having. I like the experimental theme. There's a very like lab focused kind of thing going on. But in any case, you can make it clear that it's not your stuff, and by sort of tweaking the brand presentation a little bit, I think you can, sell something that you didn't technically distill as having your own little twist on it without necessarily doing damage to the what I find most valuable and most appealing, which is the getting cane from down the street, getting honey and fruit from down the street, that kind of stuff. So don't stop doing what you're doing. Just get the branding kind of lining up with what you're doing. If that makes sense. I'm going to shut up and try this again. Oh wait, I already scored this, right? The Sugarfield. Okay, moving on to the Roulaison. Maybe it's been difficult the last couple of nights, so I haven't been sleeping much, if that shows. Oh, damn it. I was hoping to tell you, after that long digression, about the huge development that the Roulaison Overproof has done with water, but it really hasn't. The fruit has come out a little bit more, so we're getting a little bit more pear, quincy quince kind of stuff. Like quince tres leches cake, if you like. But that's it. It's really kind of very much the same. So quince cake, quince smoke, that kind of thing. And on the palate, again, there's a little bit more fruit. Maybe the white pepper is coming out a little bit more. But otherwise, it's pretty much in the same line. There's not a lot of development here, which is okay because it was already really, really good. I think in the previous video, I either underrated this or this batch is maybe a hair bit better than the one I had. I'm going to give this also an 86 plus out of 100. And I know I told Andrew Lowfield in the interview that what I wanted was more wild fermentation in rum. But really, kind of what I like to see more of is what they're already doing, like not just buying sugar and from somewhere across the country and throwing some yeast in there and distilling it, but actually sourcing real stuff, local molasses, local cane juice, whatever. Maybe wild fermentation, experiment with it, see if it works, but just focus on what you're starting from and on good distilling methods, pot stills, short column stills, the stuff we know that works to produce good things. And that's what I think is going to draw attention to the category. Anyhow, that's kind of the end of this re-review, but not really. The Sugarfield Experimental 5.5 Assumption Parish is delightful. And I invite you to buy both these bottles so you can make it for yourself. Would also make a hell of a tea punch, actually. And the Roulaison Overproof, in spite of a slightly questionable cork, is also lovely. And I will also give it an 86 plus out of 100. That's all I got. Thanks for watching, and cheers.